may have decided to film right now because Winnie's sitting here. So I picked up this danelectro Fish and Chips 7-band EQ pedal used for 25 bucks, which is a pretty decent deal. It is missing one of the little kind of covers on the slider, but I can deal with that. It was a little grody, so I took some isopropyl alcohol to it and it took the finish off. So now I have like this kind of acid washed pedal, so that's cool. But you know, I've never used a hardware EQ before, so I thought it'd be fun to maybe do a little demo with it, see, you know, how it's working, and a teardown. And then at the end, I'll talk about why I picked up this pedal. All right, so here we have my now acid washed Fish and Chips pedal. I thought the easiest way to kind of really be demoing like frequency, or at least I think what's gonna work well, is to just have a tone coming through from Castor and Pollux. So it's just solidly on. And so now I'm gonna turn on the pedal. All right, and so now those pots are scratchy. Okay. Basically, and in case you aren't sure what an EQ does, like this is the low end frequency, these are the middle, this is the high. So it's changing the quality of the waveform and basically taking like either raising or lowering those frequencies to affect how it sounds. So let's change it up for a second and go out of plates. And let's change. That's a good one. Kind of sine tony. So that was a pretty good demo of it. So the pots are definitely a little scratchy, which I saw there was some gunk built up, but after I stripped the plastic off, I didn't totally go in there and clean. But part of the teardown is going to be cleaning it. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Let me get some stuff floating around just to quickly demo that. So danelectro is a brand that's been around for like a decent amount of time. JHS Show did a great episode on all of them. I do have one danelectro. It's an octave. What's fun is they're all these like kind of weird shapes, and they're all named for like diner food, like, you know, the 7 bands of fish and chips, the octave pedal. I forget what it's called, but it's similar. The reason why I have that is it was cheap. And at the time, Blue Orchid by White Stripes had come out, and I really wanted that tone. I found out it was an octave pedal, so there we go. So if you want to know more about danelectro pedals, I'll link the JHS episode down below. Pretty interesting history on it. All right, so now that we've used this as a little demo, we're going to take it apart so we can further understand what's going on inside. So first, I think we're going to have to take these little nubbins off. And then these have this lead screw on the back. I can tell it's been jabbed at before. Ah, it lifted right off. Cool. All right, so you can use a 9-volt battery with this, which is nice. This is the switch PCB that's in wired up here. And let's see if we can identify any of these ICs. So I went over to the internet, and this is an analog switch, and then these two are low noise amplifiers ICs. So let's now take these screws out and see what's on the other side of the board. I'm seeing some caps and things, so I'm just curious how they're doing the EQ. Is it with ICs? Is it like, what's happening? These are popping out, and then you have to go up. All right, there's multiple boards here. Inside here, we have another PCB. That's where those wires are. And then there's some shielding here for the pots so that you don't get any shorts. And that is screwed in. There's 4 more screws. There's 1 here. There's 2 more here. So now we should be able to kind of push this out. Yeah, there we go. Oof. This has seen better days. I might take that out. That is grody. All right, so we have some caps here, hot glue for the push button, and then there's a couple more ICs. So there's a big one here, and there's 3 here. So let me inspect, and I'll report back. All right, after a lot of squinting, I figured out what was going on. So these were easy to figure out once I figured out that they were all op amps. This is a low-pass filter, mid-range filter, and a high-pass filter. And it's just filtering, and the pots are affecting which frequencies. So that's easy enough. So it is doing it with just straight circuitry. This IC was very hard to find because the writing was really difficult to figure out. Then I finally found it, and it is a flip-flop chip, and it's being what was confusing even when I was like, before I was trying to find the numbers, I was looking at what it's connected to, and like it's connected to the LED and the button and some of the power stuff. So this is a power switch IC, basically. So they use an IC for the power switch here. And that's basically the boards. So just to summarize what we found. Here we have our power amplifier circuit. We have our input-output. Each of them appears to have an op amp, which makes sense. And then we have our signal distribution that's going down here. This IC is being used as the power button circuit. Probably ties into the power distribution as well. Then we have 3 pass filter circuits using op amps, low pass, band pass, high pass. And each of those pots connects to, well, one of them is a main out, but then the others are kind of distributed over the different frequencies depending on the circuit. And that is the inside of a danelectro 7-band EQ fish and chips pedal. And now we're going to put it back together and wrap up this video. So the reason why I picked up this pedal is I have an idea that it's going to require an EQ for it to sound remotely okay, and this is probably the cheapest hardware EQ that I could get that's also small. You may recall the robot xylophone, and you know, miking it is fine if I want to do like recording, but more often than not, when I make music these days, I do what's called a DAW-less setup, which is that I'm just making it live with like desktop synths and my guitar and stuff like that. Like I'm just jamming. I'm not really recording right now, which, you know, pluses and minuses. But that means that integrating the robot xylophone has, I won't even say tricky, it hasn't happened, which is really disappointing. I want it to be a part of it. Like, I think that could just be really cool. So I had been looking into like, you know, contact mics and stuff, but you know, the other thing is miking mallet instruments, especially a glockenspiel that has the metal bars, tricky. It's tricky. I was watching a live stream a couple weeks ago. There's the North Bennett Street School in the North End in Boston, and they are a trade school. Classic trades like woodworking, bookmaking, piano tuning, things like that. They had a live stream where a musician was there and he was playing piano, and he said that he had hot rodded his piano, and I was like, what? And so he's talking about he had put a guitar pickup inside the piano, which blew my mind. Now, I'd also gotten my bivalent booster that day, so I was starting to run a low-grade fever. So I was also cognizant that maybe this is just my brain going like, whoa, 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 whoa. But it sounded really good. And so he had the pickup inside the piano, and then that was going into guitar pedals that he had on top of the piano, and he had like distortion and delay on and a grand piano that he hot rodded. And so that got me thinking, could I use guitar pickups on the robot xylophone, which everyone loves to tell me is actually a glockenspiel, and I know this, but that's okay. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to try. They sell like cheap pickups. I'm not thinking like a DiMarzio or something like that. Like I'm talking like, you know, I'm thinking single coil, because they'll probably have better response. And I can do a Strat 3-set across. I looked online, I found people haven't really like talked about it as like a method. And when I've been searching around, I hadn't seen it as a method, but I did find some YouTube videos where people had experimented with it. Some people had actually put like a toy xylophone on top of a guitar and used the pickups that way. Another person had straight up put a pickup underneath and it was working. It was ear bleeding, but it was working. And so that's thus the EQ, because with an instrument like that, you really need EQ to bring down the high end. So I will either use it as a pedal as it is now, or I will take the guts out and kind of make it a standalone thing. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, that is why I picked up the EQ. And, you know, as kind of a prelude, why not play around with it and see what's going on inside. But that's going to do it for this video. I'll have links down in the description for all the nonsense I talked about. And until next time, this has been Blitz City DIY and Winnie.